Hey everybody, this is Will Jones from Stone Circle Games, and today we're going to be talking about Pandemic Legacy. That's right, we're doing it. Okay, before we get started, let me first say this. This is a spoiler-free review. Legacy games are a little unusual in that there are some elements to the game that you're not supposed to know about the first time you play it, and it expands as you go. So I'm going to be preserving those secrets and only showing you things and telling you things that you'll know about when you first open the box, so that you really get the full experience. That being said, let's jump right in. Pandemic is a cooperative territory management game in which the players collectively take on the role of a research team working to cure several deadly diseases before they consume mankind and destroy the planet. Play takes place on a map of the planet Earth, and you move your character around from city to city, treating or curing these various diseases. Diseases are represented by these little colored cubes, and the severity of an outbreak in any given city is shown by how many cubes there are in that city. How these diseases spread from one population center to another and are ultimately treated by the players are represented by these two parallel decks. Each deck contains one card for each city on the map. Draw from one deck and it gives you abilities regarding that city. The ability to fly there, the ability to treat a disease there, etc. Draw a city from the other deck though, and the infection spreads, causing diseases to intensify or even outbreak into neighboring cities. You have a set number of actions that you can perform on your turn, as well as a set number of cards that you have to draw from each deck. That's all well and good. Pandemic on its own is a fully functional, lovely game, but that's not what we're really here for. We're here for the legacy. What legacy actually means can be a little tough to wrap your head around just because it goes against everything we know about board gaming. In a legacy game like Pandemic Legacy, the game changes every time you open the box and play a game based on what happened last time through the game. And when I say the game changes, I mean it physically changes. You're writing things in the rulebook, writing things on character cards, you're opening new components that had been sealed beforehand, and the absolute most painful thing to do, you are physically tearing apart cards and other game elements because they're no longer included in the game. Now, the first and very reasonable question you might ask is, doesn't that really change your replayability value? Like, you can't just keep destroying things and adding new rules. Eventually you run out of space or run out of cards. Yes, you do. So it would help if you didn't think of Pandemic Legacy like any other board game, where you buy it once and you put it on your shelf and it's there 60 years later when you die and your grandkids find it and go, what is this? And they play and have fond memories of you. That's not how this works. You could almost think of it like a season of television. House of Cards comes out, you watch all 13 episodes, and then it's done until next year. And that's what makes this game so great. You're actually constructing a narrative over days or weeks or months of play that's consistent. There's even a storyline in-game. You have your little character cards, and every couple of games you get this new mission briefing updating you with new story information for this episode. And a lot of the information that carries over from game to game is really evocative. One of my favorites is what they call a city's panic level. If a city has the maximum number of disease cubes in it, and you would have to add another, instead it outbreaks. And amongst other things, an outbreak raises a city's panic level, from fine to unstable to rioting to collapsing to fallen. And the game does a really good job of making you feel that. You get this very 28 days later contagion sense of, oh my god, everything's going to hell. And you find yourself getting really invested in it. You sit down with your friends and you're reminiscing, oh yeah, what happened last time? Madrid got outbreak after outbreak and it's on the verge of collapsing. And suddenly you sit down and you're fixated on this one city that at the start of your first game was just like any other, but now is this hotbed of disease and turmoil. And it's not all bad either. At the end of each game, you get to assign upgrades, either to your characters or to the diseases, making the diseases easier to cure, or to various cities on the board, anything like that. So that you get to sort of customize your approach based on what you think is going to be most valuable, not just in this game, but in the next game. So you get this real element of long-term planning, which is extremely satisfying. And oh my god, speaking of satisfying things in this game, if you were like me, you grew up with an advent calendar at Christmas time where you'd have the little perforated cardboard square and you'd open it up and there'd be a little surprise in there. This game has one of those. The game actually comes with these top secret files, and every now and then a card will say something like, open bracket 43, and you'll open it up and there'll be little goodies or stickers or something in there that changes the game. Look, I know it sounds silly, but this is gaming. It's really fun to open these little packages and see what you've got and see how the narrative is switching directions represented by physical additions to the game. In terms of a game getting my pulse going in a good way, I don't think I've ever found the equal of Pandemic Legacy. You find yourself drawing cards in a cold sweat, hoping beyond hope that this last city you have that isn't rioting, your last bastion of civilization, doesn't get drawn and get this new type of infection. And then it hits the table and everybody groans and cries because we're all on the same side, and you have to figure out what the hell you're gonna do now. In terms of negatives about the game, yeah, there are a couple. The first one is obviously the replayability. There is none. You get one time through this season and then the game is spent. And that works out to anywhere between 12 and 24 games. No more, no less than that. The other detriment is the price point. It's just an expensive game. It retails for significantly more than other games. But you know what? Not everything's meant to be cheap, and not everything's meant to be replayed ad nauseum. The replayability with Pandemic Legacy isn't a bug, it's a feature. Honestly, I recommend this for just about anybody. I didn't even love the original Pandemic, but the legacy elements really sell this for me. Obviously, my hands are a little bit tied in talking about gameplay because there's so much I don't want to spoil for you, but trust me, this is a great buy. So that's Pandemic Legacy. Whew. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and click below to like and subscribe to us for more great content from Stone Circle Games, and until then, have fun around the table.